What is this lab all about? Well, we are observing the electric forces at work, positive and negative charges, and how they interact. We're creating charged objects from neutral objects, and we're learning how to estimate the excess or deficient electrons of an object and figuring out those interactions. The physical principles at play are Coulomb's law and as well as Newton's second law. And as a brief synopsis of the results I obtained, I found that like charges repel each other, opposite charges attract. And I found that a charge can be created by adding or removing electrons from a neutral object. All right, here are my data, measurements, and observations. For this experiment, I used two 20-centimeter long pieces of tape, both having a mass of 0.2 grams. And using this and a gravitational constant, 9.81 meters per second squared, I found the force of gravity on the tape to be 0.001962 newtons. During experimentation, I found the distance of separation when gravitational force equals the electric force to be 1.3 centimeters. And based on this relationship, I could find the charge required to lift the U-tape at 1.3 centimeters of separation. And I found that charge to be around 6.1 times 10 to the negative 9 coulombs. And from there, just by dividing by the quantum charge of an electron, I found the number of electrons on the surface to be around 3.8 times 10 to the 10th electrons. And knowing the general area of an atom and knowing the area of my tape, I can find the number of atoms on the surface and therefore the ratio of electrons to atom on the surface, which happens to be less than 1, which concludes that the tape is most likely positively charged. In addition to this, I found that the two U-tapes repelled each other, which suggested that they were the same charge. And I found that the U-tape was attracted to the negatively charged pen that we rubbed on cloth. And that suggests that the tape is positively charged, further supporting the ratio of electrons to atoms conclusion. In addition to this, I found that the U-tape was attracted to the neutral object, essentially creating attracting the electrons of that object and repelling the protons of that object. For my coding, I essentially created two point charges, the two red spheres being the U-tape, the green arrow being the force of gravity on the tape, and the orange arrow being the magnitude of the electric force, or the electric force on the top tape. In this coding project, I did not use my own numbers, but rather made up numbers. But with these numbers, I found the charge of the tape to be 4.7 times 10 to the negative 10th. Negative 6 coulombs. It asked of us if electrons had a positive charge and protons had a negative charge, would that change anything about our observations? And the basic answer to that is nothing. It would change nothing. And that is because if you have, if the two tapes which were positively charged suddenly became negatively charged, they would still repel each other. In addition to this, if the tape that was positively charged or negatively charged was put near a neutral object, it would still be attracted to the neutral object. And it's just that the neutral object would be attracting it with its protons, and then its electrons would be repelled. Another question is, why is it important to handle the charged tapes as little as possible? Again, the short answer to this is because it will discharge the tape. When the charges of the tapes comes into contact with your hands or other objects. And what happens is, because your hands are fairly decent conductors, excess charge will spread over the surface of your skin. So for an electron deficient tape, the electron will move from your hand to the tape to balance out the charge. And this will discharge the tape. Thank you for listening. This is the end of my presentation.